We came here today to discuss a problem issue you're having with a student in your classroom.
Yes.
I understand you're a high school teacher currently.
Yes, I am. I teach ninth grade biology at the moment.
Right. And could you describe this problem you're having with a student?
Yeah, so I have a student who is diagnosed with impulsivity and also being hyperactive. And so in class, he can be very disruptive. And he also, on top of it being like impulsive and being very hyperactive,
Mm-hmm.
he is also like a defiant,
Mm-hmm.
especially in terms of class expectations and class rules and
Mm-hmm.
staying on task. So that's what we're going through right now in the classroom with him.
Could you tell me how these behaviors look like? So when he is hyperactive, when he's
Mhm.
impulsive, and when he's not following the directions, how do
Yeah.
these look like?
So his hyperactivity is always like him like touching something or he's always like, moving and fidgeting,
Mm-hmm.
not able to really stay in one place for a long time. And this happens a lot, especially like during lecture or during whole class discussions. And he's always like constantly playing with something, crinkling something, um, or like right. So that's a lot of times happening for his like hyperactivity. In terms of his impulsivity, a lot of times he could just like again like um, yell things out loud, like in class, like
Mm-hmm.
sometimes without raising his hand, which is part of our classroom expectations. He could also be also impulsive in terms of like making noises,
Mm-hmm.
like he makes like farting noises or like weird noises like from his mouth at times,
Mm-hmm.
which can be distracting to other people around him in the classroom. And then his defiance is usually it's not like he's not being disrespectful in the sense of not like talking back to me, but like I will prompt him to be on task over and over again
Mm-hmm.
within the class, and he will just again like say yes, 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 okay, I'll be on task, and then right away um, be defined in terms of staying on task
Okay.
and following our class expectations.
So typically, when you ask him to do something, he'll
Mhm.
say sure, and then
Yeah.
you can come back in a little bit, and he's not doing it.
Exactly, and usually I would go over the classroom expectations, and then like, okay, if you're not done with this part by this time, then I'm gonna have you to move up like front and work on this like alone. So I kind of like make that, hey, listen, here's expectations, here's what we're asking you to do. You know these expectations. If you're not gonna be able to handle yourself here, then you're gonna work alone in front. And so I try to using that technique. Sometimes it works, but even when he does like when he does move up front and work alone,
Mm-hmm.
he doesn't stay on task. He
Okay.
just still is.
Is he making noises and just
He
being
makes noises. He
disruptive?
tries to distract other people as well.
Mm-hmm.
And he does pretty well in assessments. So I don't think it's him not understanding things. I think it's just himself. He just is able, like it's seventh period of the day. Like there's
Mm-hmm.
only two more periods, or sorry, like one more period left, like of the day.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe he's just like really tired, exhausted at that point, or just has a lot of energy and has been sitting down in school for all day. So
Mm-hmm.
maybe that's a part of it as well.
Okay. And these behaviors in the classroom, how long would you say they last? Him making noises or just staying off task?
I mean, honestly, I um, I used to tally him a lot, like in the beginning of the semester, and it'll be like 5 redirects within a class time like period
Mm-hmm.
on average a day.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, again, it only lasts during like when we have actually, in terms of him being like impulsive and making like impulsive remarks or having these impulsive behaviors. It happens during lectures, like I said, during whole class discussion. Once it's done, he stops really like making those noises, and those like impulsive choices that he makes. So it probably lasts about like, but again, like once I redirect him, like which I
Mhm.
do, I don't like let it last the whole time period. It stops, but then sometimes it goes on again. So he'll do it, and I'll like redirect him by like looking at him and like with like nonverbal cues, and it tends to like to stop him from doing these impulsive like things or choices.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like an ongoing thing.
Okay. So you have tried other interventions by moving a
Yes.
seat and verbal cues,
Yes.
and those haven't worked.
And like establishing like again like him being a part of the decision making.
Mm-hmm.
Like, hey, listen, like if you don't get this done, like, would it be fair if you to move up front? And he'll like say, yes, you're right. And then like so he'll like be involved with, in the fact of like how I'm using my interventions in the classroom like a lot of times. Um, but again, he's not maybe mature enough to really take ownership or maybe his disability really hinders him from taking ownership because of
Mm-hmm.
his like impulsivity.
So you can't stay accountable really when
Or
things are going
I
on.
try to make him accountable because like if just tell him what to do, it's not going to really work that way. So I try to make it very clear expectations, go over our classroom expectations when I do redirect him, and like remind him of the task he's doing, and even try to chunk it into smaller pieces.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it works, sometimes it does not.
I see. Okay. So pretty much we can describe his behavior as the issue is he's impulsive.
Yes.
He makes noises. He can be disruptive.
A defiant. He has never been aggressive, but I've heard from other teachers that he could be aggressive in terms of being defiant, like just not wanting to do it and just talking back.
Okay.
But I've never experienced it with me. And again, I try to establish those relationships with students so that way they understand, like, hey, I care for them. I want to do the best for them. And I want them to learn in the class, and I want them to succeed. And so maybe like having that relationship helps, so he's not as defiant and aggressive towards me. But I've definitely heard that with other teachers.
Okay. And do you think this hinders his social skills in the classroom?
Oh, he's a very social person. He gets along with everybody in the classroom. He can work with anybody. So I don't know if it hinders his, in terms of being social to other people, but it definitely hinders his performance, his ability to succeed well in the class.
Okay. So, but you wouldn't say that the other students reject them or neglect him in any way?
They don't. I think that a lot of them are like, some of them were in middle school with him, so they were used to who he is and how he acts, and it's already like established. Like right now, like we're in the middle of the year, so they're used to how he acts and his noises that he makes. And again, I try to like nip it before it becomes too distracting or too distracting for other students in the classroom. In the beginning, yes, they were more annoyed of his actions, but I think now they're just like really used to how he is, and I think it's becoming more like accepted by others in the classroom. They tend to get annoyed, like, especially working in groups with partners. Some people might get annoyed with him not being on task and helping out as much. So you might get some setback from that, but it's not to a point where he's not able to become socially like active with other people like in this class, and him being like isolated by others in the class.
Okay, so the behavior isn't that extreme from from say the other points of view that other students will reject them socially.
Yeah, I mean they sometimes would call him out, and then I'll come and try to mediate if there's any issues. But I try to have these kids, because they're in high school, to kind of work things out and discuss, and then like if I need to like intervene out, give them a specific task and say, hey, you're in charge of this task. If you don't do it, your group members are not going to like suffer from this, but it's going to hurt your grade though, not the rest of your group members. And so I try to like remind them of that. And then in that situation, they might like them being like, okay, come on, like let's do this. They might motivate them by pressure to get the assignment done or task done.
So would you say that these behaviors, do they have a high importance to you of how it's affecting your classroom?
It is, because I'm the only teacher in the room, so like if there's another teacher to help him stay on task, that would be awesome. Or to help redirect him. I have a class of 28 kids, mostly boys, and so it's like there's only so much I can do in a 15-minute time period to really to give him what he needs. He definitely is attention seeking. He needs that attention and that redirection constantly. And like there's only so much time I could give him. I have a lot of other students in the class with other disabilities as well that I have to always also like try to meet their needs as like also. So there comes to a point where it's like, yeah.
So would you say, with the classroom being majority boys, would you say that the other boys feed into this? Do they make the situation worse?
In the beginning, I think if the ones were not used to it, it's not like he was being like they didn't know he couldn't control it, but then they started seeing, okay, he can't really control his like impulse, like how he acts at times. And so like I think people are now like just used to it now. In the beginning, people were trying to feed into it, not as much.
Okay. So would you say, does he have a skill or performance deficit in class due to these behaviors?
What did you say again? Sorry.
Would you say that he has a skill deficit or performance deficit on classroom material because of the behaviors?
I don't think so, because I think he's like, based on the data I have on his assessments, both formative and summative, I definitely see that he's able to do the work. He's able to comprehend the material. So I don't think his behavior is due to understanding. A lot of times that is the case, right? They might be acting out or misbehaving or being impulsive or not being on task because they don't understand the material. There are times I'm saying he doesn't understand the material, and I have data on that. But overall, doing assessments, like he does tend to perform pretty decent. In general, like meeting most of the expectations or most of the standards, not all of it. Like he doesn't get like high performing, but he's on average in general. I'm sure if he wasn't as impulsive, yes, he probably would retain more information and do better on assessments.
Mm-hmm.
But there's also a part of studying for assessments outside of class that I don't know if he is doing as well. So that might be. So I don't know if his behavior is the only thing at play here.
So we can say that his behavior is mostly due to attention seeking
Rather
than a work avoidance.
It could. I think it's more attention seeking. But I also think it's just like him, like having a lot of energy and not being able to channel it the right way. When I do let him take breaks and use the washroom when need be, I think that it's the second to last period of the day, and I know he has this problem in other classes too. But I think that like that doesn't help in terms of trying to help. And again, like me being the only person to help redirect him in a class of 28.
Yeah.
Is also again like maybe not meeting his needs completely. Maybe in the future he needs to be in a co-taught classroom that will have another teacher there to help like redirect him and help meet his needs.
And what would you say that his parents and other teachers see these same behaviors across?
In parent-teacher conferences, parents are like, "Oh yeah, we know how our son is." They're very supportive, and he again like. They support him a lot, and they always let me like again. If there's any major issue, I will contact him. But I try to deal with it with him because I want him to be accountable over his own learning, and also to not make him dread coming to class. Again, establishing that relationship with that student.
I see. And what would you say happens before this behavior occurs, or even say before and after?
I mean, again, like
what causes it?
Like again, like we're like like of a discussion, or I'm lecturing real quick, and he'll start making noises, like fart noises in his mouth, or we'll crinkle a bottle, or just play with something, and it'll making this noise over and over again. And I'll just like look at him like.
So he would actually perform these behaviors in times of when everybody's quiet and actually being serious. So
and especially during like lecture, which are not long. My lectures are like 10 minutes maximum. And during a class discussions, he'll make those impulsive behaviors. However, again, like he's still very hyperactive and impulsive with other people, like doing like group work. But that's when I see him making those, or it's more clear that he's doing it. It's more obvious that he's doing it. And again, like once we direct him, he'll say, "I'm sorry," like because again, I'll do like non-verbally. He'll put his hands up saying, "I'm sorry," stop. But then like 5 minutes later, or it'll continue again.
Okay. So would you say that it's similar? These behaviors, are they being enforced by all the teachers in different settings?
So his accommodations are like to see him up front, to make the school rules or the classroom rules very clear, very like and also like make sure that I give them like a checklist of what we're doing, like very clear what they're doing in the assignment, and I do that a lot actually for all my students, especially. Like I'll timestamp what they're supposed to be doing, like almost like a checklist in that classroom that day, to kind of help them understand what's their expectation when they're doing this assignment. And when we do break out, like okay, just a reminder of our expectations. So I make that very clear to them. And that is part of his accommodations. I don't know if it works the best for him. I'm sure he hears in his other classroom as well. He also has other accommodations as well, such as like an alternate setting. He doesn't like to use them. He likes to stay in the classroom all the time for his like assessments.
And do you know anything about this student's socioeconomic status or ethnic background?
He is Caucasian. This isn't a more affluent community, and this student definitely comes from more of an affluent family environment.
Okay, so affluent students. So, but as far as a treatment plan goes for what we can implement for this student, we can do a number of things. But one thing that we have to keep in mind that when the treatment plan gets implemented, that these behaviors can become a lot worse until they can actually become better. Of sticking with the treatment plan. So, as far as me and you can come up with a treatment plan together, we said that the student can't be held accountable, so he can't take actual accountability for what he's doing. So he knows the difference.
Oh, he knows what he's doing. He knows what the expectations are, because they make it very clear in the classroom before every transition. Before every assignment, and I like to even break assignments in smaller, manageable tasks for him. Again, I give him the movement to move and to go take a bathroom break to help with his hyperactivity. I try to make that. I try to accommodate his needs in that way as well.
So do you think maybe a contract plan can work with him if you set up a contract saying that if you display this behavior more X amount of times, this
Mhm.
can happen, or if he doesn't,
Um,
he can get a positive reward?
I think that might work. I think what really would work with him, especially, is if he could even like tally how many times he's even off task, so
Mm-hmm.
he could see himself. Oh,
Yeah.
I'm off task, or I'm off task, or oh, I'm making like a distracting sound, or I'm being
Yeah.
impulsive. Like maybe it would be good for him to even tally at the end, and
Mm-hmm.
as those tallies decrease over time, then maybe a reward would work.
Yeah.
So maybe that would be better than a contract, because a lot of times
Mm-hmm.
students could think, oh, contract, and they might think it's like a punish, or even though it's using positive like
Yeah.
reinforcement,
Mm-hmm.
I think even like the structures of that might turn him off
Absolutely.
to want to engage in that. But him being in charge of his own self
Mm-hmm.
and having his own role might
So he
be
can take a positive self management. He can self
maybe
manage himself then.
maybe that's something we can do, like, or at least have
Yeah.
him track it to see how he's
Mm-hmm.
doing, so he can kind of see where he's at,
Yeah.
or even like come up to me and get like a mark of where he, or like a rating scale of where he was that day
Mm-hmm.
with his other teachers as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna gauge of where he's at in terms of his behavior.
But okay, we can do that. But if we do a positive self management, you would have to continue providing cues,
Yes,
previously
of
agreed upon
course.
cues for him when he is being
Try
disruptive.
and try to take him away from like distractive stimuli as well, and things
Absolutely.
as such.
Okay. So we can get that in place and
Perfect.
check back and see how the plan is working. Then.
Sounds good.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.